QI, where tonight it's a lot of noble rot with knobs on. Nibbling at the upper crust are the incomparable king of comedy, Jason Manford. The quintessential queen of quips, Sarah Pascoe. The peerless prince of pleasantries, Jeremy Clarkson. And lordy, lordy, it's Alan Davis. Right, please ring down for service. Jason goes. Sarah goes. Jeremy goes. And Alan goes.
Ring-a-ding, 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 ring-a-ding.
Let's start off by hobnobbing with a top knob. Name a nobleman who invented a hot drink you might enjoy with a hobnob.
Coffee and Nan.
That's a drink and a snack, I think. Aaron Horlicks. Hobnobs, of course, are an imposter, and no nobleman would have had a hobnob.
No, that is true.
They have the air of a classic.
They do, and yet it's a
but
PR
actually,
invention.
they're a kind of 70s hallucination.
OK, so this hot drink is also a kind of PR invention, which we call by the name of a lord, but it isn't really.
Earl Grey.
Earl Grey.
It is Earl Grey. It is a black tea which has been flavoured with bergamot oil, and it is named after Earl Grey. Almost certainly nothing to do with it, even though I think it continues to say so on the packaging.
What about Lady Grey? I like Lady Grey.
Yeah, that's lovely, that one.
Well, you and me both, but...
It's not a euphemism, it's an actual tea.
Oh, I see, sorry, yes.
I'm not into Earl Grey.
Why is that?
It's like someone's melted some potpourri in a cup. The fact it smells exactly like it tastes is weird.
Yeah. You do know you're drunk at a party if you're eating the potpourri, don't you? You just think, well, let's...
Potpourri. He started this...
Potpourri?
Potpourri, so it's said, doesn't it,
Oh,
James?
there's another
I'm going to say
pronunciation of it.
potpourri.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Potpourri.
Yeah,
I don't know. We don't have it in our house.
Have you eaten it?
We just have a magic tree on the couch.
It's all over your shirt, James. It's all over your shirt.
But do you know why it's been named after Earl Grey?
I have no idea.
No, and indeed that is correct.
He insisted.
No, he was probably dead 40 years when somebody first came up with it.
Oh, like Jesus.
If I said that, I'd have been in so much... You probably will be.
Anybody know what Earl Grey is famous for?
When was he alive?
Well, I can tell you when he was in government, which is from 1830 to 1834.
Was it a law? Was it a movement?
It is a law.
It's a law.
It is a law,
Okay,
yeah.
so 1830.
1832, there was an important law. What was that one? What was that one, Jeremy?
In 1830...
Corn
that what
laws.
it's called?
Repealing the corn
It's
laws.
the Great Reform Act.
Police... That's it.
It's the Great Reform Act. Yes?
The Great Reform Act of 1830.
Yes, so reforming government extended the right to vote and got rid of the rotten boroughs when there were maybe only 9 voters returning a member of Parliament, so it helped to re-establish the authority of Parliament, but it was also that he led the most nepotistic government in British history, OK? It was described as the most aristocratic administration that has ever been formed. All but one of his 13 cabinet members were either peers or heirs to a peerage, and in the lower ranks, large numbers of his own family.
Did they call it 50 Shades of Grey?
They should have done. They would have been ahead of the game.
And pretty sexy.
I know. But tea, of course, the great British cure-all, and there are some historians who consider that tea ought to take credit for the fact that the Industrial Revolution happened first in Britain. Why might that be?
Caffeine.
For keeping you awake? No, it's not that.
What was the question? No, it was. I'm a bit deaf.
So glad you joined us.
You're mocking the afflicted.
Not at all.
That's my job.
Some historians take a view...
Yeah.
It's last Tuesday. There are historians who take a view that tea is responsible for the Industrial Revolution. Now, why might it be? Why might tea be...
Determination to get tea here quickly?
No. So, industrialisation, what happens is you get a concentration of the population in cities, and that usually leads to epidemics. However, in Britain, the health got better rather than worse in cities.
because they were boiling the water.
Because they were boiling the water
Didn't have
to
the
drink
germs.
tea. Exactly right. So, other foods associated, I don't know, more or less plausibly with eponymous nobles?
Baron Kit Kat?
Baron Kit Kat sounds like one without chocolate on it, doesn't it? Beef Wellington.
Beef
yes.
Wellington. Good one.
Which I find too rich. Do anybody like beef Wellington?
I like it, me.
Do you?
Yeah, we didn't get it much at school.
Did you not?
But I've grown into the taste, yeah.
Battenberg cake, which was created especially for the marriage of Prince Louis of Battenberg in 1884.
Are we looking for title people who give their names to food?
Well, yes, that would be ideal.
Wellington.
I will catch up with you in about 5 minutes.
It's a new thing. Honestly, have you tried being deaf? It's bloody difficult. You can't... I don't know why... It is. Just put your fingers in your ears and it's all just like I'm underwater. When you lean forwards like that, then I can stay in tune.
If you say so. Anyway, moving on. One way to get a good job is to be a nobleman's nephew. But how can you improve your job prospects by getting nicked?
Is this Duke of Marlborough type stuff?
No, not particularly. We have to think about other words for...
Oh, so if you're trying to get a job and it would be good if you got nicked, maybe the job is, like, testing how sharp paper is.
OK.
And are people going to get paper cuts? Like, that meaning of nicked.
That would be a great job.
Yeah, you just, like, work with paper all day, like, those ones are too sharp.
Yeah.
That one's lovely.
Yeah.
What about when you lick an envelope and cut your lip?
Oh, yeah. That would be, like, for the boss person to do that one with tongues
Like
involved.
half your face falls off.
Yeah.
OK, weirdly...
That's how the Joker got like that.
Weirdly...
Like an envelope accident.
You are in the right area...
Excellent.
...of cutting your face.
Shaving.
Shavers.
No.
Razors.
Barber.
No, it's nothing to do with shaving. It is, until the Second World War, the tradition of duelling with swords was absolutely woven into the fabric of life at the higher echelons of society. We are talking about the German-speaking world, actually, to be specific. And the professional classes, they wore the resulting scars on their cheeks as badges of honour. And even today, there's about 160 student duelling clubs. We can have a look at them fighting here. So one of the things is you mustn't move. You're not allowed to move your feet at all. You have to keep your left hand behind...
Are they beekeepers or...?
But they're a bit like Freemasons. And so the old boys of these dueling clubs, they absolutely dominate lots and lots of the jobs in big business. And you can see it's very ritualised, and they have these extraordinary get-togethers. They sing patriotic songs, and they have such prodigious beer-drinking contests that they have special puking basins.
Is this before the fight?
I'm very much hoping it's afterwards. I very much
That would be
hope
great.
it's
Drunk dueling, I'd like to see that.
I think you did that on about Series 16 of Top Gear, didn't you?
And the scars are they're known as Schnisse, or Renomie Schmisse, and they're known as bragging scars.
Oh, I was really drunk.
There were terrible injuries. 1566, the Danish astronomer Tycho Brahe lost his nose to a fellow student.
Sorry, he was an astronomer.
He was a famous Danish astronomer, so I'm trying on each show, Jason, to put in a random Scandinavian fact.
That's good.
Which I call my Randy Scandi. And he lost his nose and he had to wear a brass prosthetic for the rest of his life.
Brass?
Brass, yeah.
You'd look a bit ridiculous going through airport metal detectors.
Yeah, that's right. They couldn't get a better nose replacement than brass, but they were aeroplanes.
Yeah.
You can't hear. This is the best moment in the world. We can say anything we want about
he doesn't
Jeremy. He can't
know.
hear us.
Can we get Jeremy a trumpet, one of those trumpets?
But I want to go back to his nose.
Yes.
Why did they fit a brass one?
It's a talking point, isn't it?
They had chewing gum in those days.
How did they fit it?
There was an adhesive, but he is said to have had a green line on his face where the adhesive... And it's possible he also had a special gold or silver one for parties. He's an interesting guy because he was really concerned about the look of things, and it is possible that he died from extremely good manners. So, 1601, he was at a banquet, and it wasn't the thing when you were at a banquet to excuse yourself to go and wee, and he may or may not have died of a burst bladder. It is possible.
Or maybe he was doing coke.
Again...
Which would probably be really tricky with a brass nose.
Yeah.
I think I'd have denim. Or gingham for parties.
Yeah.
Yeah, like kitchen curtains. There's a hole! Oh, you'd have a miniature sword.
Look, madam, look at my rapier.
Terrible if you're trying to get off with someone. Oh, sorry.
They'd lost their nose as well, and they had a little shield, and that's how you know we were made for each other.
Oh, literally been made for each other. Dueling scars were so valued that people sometimes inflicted them on themselves, or they would stuff horsehair into the wound, or they would pour red wine onto it. They wanted it to be as prominent as possible. Oh. And having a manly scar was once thought to make one good marriage material. So would you be more or less likely to go out with somebody, Sarah, who had a scar? Particularly, you know, on the face?
I'm not scarist.
No.
I mean, I would like to say I'm not that shallow at all, and I go for, like, personality.
Yeah, but...
Yeah, but... love a man with a scar.
Well, there's been recent research on this, which is really interesting, which suggests that women do indeed favour men with scars, but for short-term relationships.
Oh, yeah. Women tend to change their tastes when they're ovulating. So you know about these studies? So, and they think it comes from our multi-partnering history, where essentially we pair up with guys who would make, or if we're straight, good fathers, but when we're ovulating, we fancy something a bit bigger and rougher.
The one with the scar?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, it depends how we got the scar, really.
Yeah.
My scar's from a clutch pedal going through my leg on a lorry. No, that's not interesting, but I have to...
This is why we've sat you too far apart.
If I go around saying, no, this scar was from saving a school bus full of children and a tiger came, that would be quite good.
Yeah.
That's a good scar. But, I mean, well, I had an accident in a lorry and the clutch pedal went through my legs. Dreary, don't you think?
Well, you say that, but I'm actually ovulating at the moment, and I found...
Anybody think women did dueling, or just a boys' thing?
Oh, have you been to the big market in Newcastle on a Saturday night?
I hope that women did do dueling as well.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. It was called petticoat duels, and possibly the most famous between... kind of snatch and grab. Never thought of hiding a pistol there. So the most famous one, 1892, in Austria, it was a topless duel.
Oh, that's brilliant. Channel 5, where are you?
Between Princess Metternich and Countess Kielmansegg, and what I love about it, it's said to have been caused by a disagreement over a flower arrangement.
Any excuse, that sounds like... Yeah, well, I don't like the flowers, so get your top off. I'll duel you.
Apparently, both the women were worried that if they were wounded and some fabric got into the wound, it would get infected. It's the very first emancipated duel in that every single person who took part, all the seconds, the two duellers, and indeed the medic, were all women. It's hard to say who won. The princess, she was injured first on the nose, so the countess got first blood, as it were, but she was then injured on the arm, which is a better wound.
So if there's points for where you cut the person, then that's what the face ones were.
Who does better?
OK.
As long as you come out with both your nipples, I'm sure you'll be all right. Oh, fuck. Milk everywhere.
Boobs aren't full of milk. That's not why we have... That's not...
Do you suppose that there's milk all the time?
So we've got a baby in the house, there's milk. Boobs are sometimes full of milk.
OK. Possibly not those four.
Perhaps they weren't at the time of the duel. Stop it!
wonder how we get to where we do. The rule for German businessmen is you scratch my cheek and I'll scratch yours. How can you tell a knob from a yob? So we were talking about potpourri and potpourri. How would you know your upper class from your not so upper class?
Would they say, he's a yob? There's a noob and a yob.
It is absolutely to do with what you say. So in 1954, there was a linguistics professor at Aston University in Birmingham called Alan Ross, and he devised the terms you and non-you to distinguish speech patterns of the English upper classes and what we unfortunately call the lower social strata. For the following year, Nancy Mitford, the extraordinary one of the Mitford sisters, there she is on the right there with her sisters Unity and Diana. She picked this up in an essay, and she said that nowadays you couldn't tell the upper classes because they were no longer cleaner, richer or better educated than anybody else. It was principally by language, and this caused tremendous anxiety in the middle classes. So the question is, would you use loo paper or toilet paper?
Bog roll.
Well, do you know, that it really is an interesting question. I was away last week, and it was in Namibia, and I went up to the man, because we were camping, and I said, have you got any bog roll? And he went, what? Like, it obviously doesn't work in Namibia. And I was actually flummoxed, thinking, now, what do I say?
What, did you do mime?
Yes, I did.
Did you?
Rather than say loo roll, which is just, I know.
Women used to, that's the whole thing with powder rooms, wasn't it? So that women never had to say, like, where's the bathroom or where's the toilet?
Well, the best I ever heard for that was I had a girlfriend years and years ago, went to see a very, very posh friend of mine. And his mother, when she got there, this girlfriend of mine said, would you like to look in a mirror? Which means, would you like to go and have a piss? But...
What? Oh, it can mean, do you want a line of coke?
Yeah, no.
It depends what party you're at.
Here's an interesting fact about wiping your bum.
Yes.
So, I've worked this out on the last tour of mine, right? But half the population, right, when they're wiping the bottom, right, they stand up and hand goes back and they wipe, right? And the other half, they stay sat down and reach in and have a wipe. And the weirdest thing is, one half, until I just said it now, didn't even know the other half existed.
How did you get inspired to start this survey?
Yeah.
How did you know about the other people?
I think I just walked in on someone.
Oh.
And I was like, what are you doing? They're like, this is how you wipe your bum. I went, it isn't. What's this?
So this is a survey based on 2 people?
Well, then I started mentioning it.
Oh, you started mentioning it?
And I noticed that. Look, we'll do it now.
OK.
Right.
Come on, then.
If you stand up after you've finished and wipe your bottom, give me a cheer. If you stay sat down and reach in and wipe your bottom, give us a cheer. 50, 50. It's weird. It's weird.
I didn't think it was 50-50. I thought the ones who sit down were slightly camper noise.
When you go to a festival or any outdoor event, what is it that causes somebody to sit down on the lavatory and then completely mess up all the rest of it? You go, what shall I do with that? I'll throw that on the floor, then I'll completely unravel all the rest of the bog, and then somehow I'll get all that blue stuff all over the seat. Do you think, do you do that at home? I mean, how do you...
LSD, they're on LSD.
Suspicious. I think they might have known that you were behind them in the queue.
Every single one you ever go, they can't all imagine I'm in there. Although somebody did once push one of those things over when I was in it. Yes, and they did know it was me.
Did they?
But at least you can stand up. So for women, it's really difficult because you sort of have to hover, don't you? And I remember one time I went to the ladies and the lock didn't quite work. This is a very tricky moment for a woman because you have to sort of hover. So obsessed with not making a mess on the seat, I thought, oh, sod it, I'll just sit down. And as I sat down, the door burst open and a woman came straight in and she went, oh, I'm so sorry. And then she shut the door again and then she burst it open again and she went, you're Sally Toxby, can I... Give us a minute. Let's find out which side of the tracks you were born on. Let's play Posh or Bex. Are you going to be posh Or you're going to be Bex. OK. Question. You get a bit squiffy at a do. What's the one thing you shouldn't do?
Don't mention your allegiance to the Nazis.
It depends which sister you're out with, really.
Is it anything to do with being ill?
No,
Just
it's
saying
to
things.
do with being argumentative.
Oh, don't.
So don't have an argument. What Nancy said was, when drunk, gentlemen often become amorous or maudlin or vomit in public, but they never become truculent. So when you're drunk, next time, think, I'm not doing truculent.
Truculent.
Truculent, not happening. So, tell me what you can see here, and make sure you watch your P's and Q's. So let's start on the left. What do you see?
Tutu.
It's not to do with the clothing, it's to do with the
Ballerina.
There are boys and there are...
Girls.
Girls. So if you are posh, you pronounce girl to rhyme with hell.
Gel.
Gel.
A gel.
Or hal. Gal. Not to rhyme with curl, not girl.
That's a Bridgestone tyre. That's probably not relevant, though, is it?
Nothing wrong with your eyes, Jeremy.
So what's the next one? Next to the gal, what's the next one
That
called?
will be a golf
It's a
ball.
golf ball, though.
It's a golf ball.
I don't want to be
absolutely.
technical as well, but
Yeah.
golf balls aren't usually that big.
No, it's really more for the purposes of
Well,
illustration.
it depends where you stood.
Yeah.
If you stood down the fairway, it probably does look like big.
It is without the L if you are posh. It's
Golf.
Golf ball.
Golf.
Ball, yeah.
Well, they're saying it wrong. I mean, that's not posh and common. That's right and wrong.
Yeah. It's not got an L in it. Well, I heard somebody the other day refer to the Alps as the Alps.
Did you?
Fastest person I've ever met.
What about the next one? What about the Bridgestone? What about...
As high.
Tar.
Tar. Yeah. Tar. And the next one?
Loin.
La. To rhyme
So you
with
basically
bar.
have to say these things as if you have
trophy.
got a golf ball in your mouth.
Yes. Yeah. Anyway, what's so darn shocking about this map?
Is darn important?
Darn is very
Thing?
important,
So
yes.
it's something to do with knitting?
Knitting?
No, not that
Weaving.
kind of darn, where in the United States, what might darn be for?
Darn.
Darn.
People who say darn.
Yes, people who say darn. It's a euphemism for damn from 1781, and this is its jizz score, OK? It's statistics, people, OK? There was an analysis done of 9 billion words
9 billion
in American tweets.
ejaculations.
Blue is bad, but orange is really bad.
9 billion words in American tweets, and then they've geocoded them, so they analysed where they are, pinpointing on a map, and then they displayed them as heat maps. So this is darn, and if you look at the more the word is used, the darker the red colour, and the less it's used, the darker the blue. So it shows that darn is used very heavily in the northern central states. Well, in tweets, at the very least.
Is that Kansas right in the middle?
Yes.
Oklahoma's the one with the sticky outside bit.
Yes, you've totally got the hang
I
of
know
America.
some of these. Utah. I'm quite good at these.
But we don't know where you're pointing.
Just so places in America.
New York, California, Florida. Got them all. Got them all.
The genius Joan Rivers said that intelligence was something to do with proximity to water. She said, if you look at the United States, you get a lot of clever people on the coast. And then it goes clever, dumber, 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 Kansas. So have a look at this one. What word do you think this map represents? There's another American swear word.
Golly.
You're close, it's gosh.
Gosh.
It's gosh.
Oh, that's Puritan.
So heavily used around Texas. You can see where the red is, and hardly at all up in New England. They don't use gosh very much.
I quite like that.
I like these ones.
Is this words that people use when they jizz? Is that what it is? Gosh darn it. I'm sorry, Miss
Call
Ellen.
it now. This show's changing, isn't it?
And I'm just trying to wrestle it back. So have a look at this one. Very heavily used in New England, hardly used in the southeast at all.
God damn.
It's asshole.
Asshole.
Yeah. That, and who thought there
Why
was
do they
a...
not use it? They don't say asshole in Arkansas. then.
Georgia.
Or the Carolinas.
Yeah, not used in Florida.
It's not used in Montana because there's nobody there.
That's true. It's not often you see a map of the jizz score for arsehole, is it? It's not often.
Not now Stephen's gone.
No. So here's the question is, do you think that people who swear a lot are more articulate or less articulate?
More.
Why?
Because they've got more words.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Wank and bloody and things like that. People who don't swear haven't got those words.
You were doing so well, and now you're going to hardly appear in the programme at all.
It's just going to be you going, what?
It's since I started wearing cardigans, my ears have gone wrong.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Something
I
to do
think
with
you're putting them on wrong.
Yeah. No, there's a swearing fluency test, and if you do this test and you ask people to write down how many swear words they can think of in 2 minutes, the people who will succeed best are the people who are the most articulate. Although it depends on what language you speak. So Japanese, very, very few swear words.
Dutch bar G's. They can swear uninterrupted, most of them, for 2 minutes without repetition or hesitation.
Can they really?
Yeah, Dutch is really good. They've got, what's that word? Schwaffling.
What does it mean?
Well, you certainly couldn't say it on Dutch television. It means to bang your penis against the Taj Mahal.
Fucking true.
Who amongst us hasn't had that urge?
Jeremy, when I finish this show, if I get in trouble for Googling that, I'm coming after you.
How many swear words, roughly, do you think we have in English?
200.
48.
I'd say 107.
Okay,
Yeah, but
so
you invented about half of them.
Borrowed from the Dutch.
Alan's the closest. It's actually only about 20. It is actually not as many as you think. The people who had the most swear words were the Romans. They had about 800. So if you compare that to our 20...
Oh, we're doing that right.
We use swear words sort of between 0.3 and 0.7% of the time. Actually, it's not all that common.
I think Jeremy's listing swear words.
Are you?
I'm way past 20.
Are you, darling?
Press the red button now to see what they are.
Can you make sure that for the next recording, this book's thrown away? It's just that anyone who opens it up is going to be a bit surprised by what I've written down there.
You could just sign it, Jeremy, and then nobody'd be the least bit surprised. Anyway, moving on. What can't you have knobs on in Canada?
Furniture.
Sort of. It's against the law in some places.
Oh.
Isn't everything
Doors?
against the law in Canada, really?
They're very polite, the Canadians. They're like America with manners.
Incredibly nice. And Vancouver always wins the best place in the world to live because nothing ever happens there.
OK, so it is Vancouver that we need to be in.
Oh.
And it was a law passed in 2014.
Oh, so kind of
Furniture type knob.
Doorknobs, yes. You cannot have doorknobs at all in Vancouver.
They trapped inside.
They can't get out,
They can't
any
get
of them, no.
Not thought this through. Has anyone heard from anyone from Vancouver?
This is the best place to live in the world and won't let you out again.
No new buildings, domestic or commercial, is allowed to have doorknobs on them. They can only have levers. Why might that be?
Oh, is it when he gets caught in your pocket as you wander past? It's really annoying, isn't it?
No, it's to do with the elderly and the infirm.
You can't turn the knob.
Arthritic hands.
Yes, so the idea is to make all buildings work for everybody so that you don't have doorknobs anymore. Anyway, a year before the ban was introduced, there was a pro-knob lobby. Who were up in arms about the incursions of the nanny state. And the president of the Antique Doorknob Collectors of America, Alan Jocelyn, said, to say that when I build my private home and nobody is disabled that I have to put levers on strikes me as overreach. And they do have one rather telling objection, because the advantage of door levers is not restricted to the old and the infirm. So operating a doorknob requires pronation and supination of the
Yeah,
wrist.
a dog can get in.
That's the point.
I mean, to be fair, that dog deserves to be able to open a door.
Yeah, that's true.
If that's the skills he's got.
But they prefer levers to knobs because you haven't got an opposable thumb, you can't possibly work it. However, there is a county in Colorado, Pitkin County, which has gone the opposite way to Vancouver, and it's banned all levers, and you can only have doorknobs. Why might that be?
Bears.
Absolutely right, it is bears.
Oh, look at them. We can't get in. What are we going to do? I'll pick you up. You go through the window.
If you want to keep bears and old people out of your house, hang on to your doorknobs. And now to one of nature's aristocrats. Alan, would you say you were nice and natural?
Yes.
You're doing yourself down, that's the trouble.
Oh, I'm not nice or natural. Look at that idiot.
So the word nice has completely reversed its meaning.
It used to be an insult, didn't it? It was a nasty thing you'd say to somebody.
Yeah, it's derived from the Latin for ignorant, and it originally meant foolish or silly, and up until 17th century, to call somebody nice was always critical and negative. It could also mean wanton, and then 17th and 18th century, you begin to get the modern sense of the word as being a nice thing.
We started to appreciate wanton people a bit more.
Exactly.
She's nice.
Yes, she is.
And an earlier meaning of a natural was a born fool or idiot.
That's our family at Christmas.
So there used to be a natural idiot or a natural fool. That used to be the thing. Now a natural is usually a person who's naturally talented. You say he's a natural at doing something.
The natural.
Anybody remember the term the necessary?
Lavatorial.
Yes, so a necessary woman was a lavatory attendant, somebody who worked...
Oh, really?
Yeah, worked in the loo. But there seems to be a tendency for words meaning fool to start with an N. Have a look at this list of words and see if you can spot whether any of them don't mean fool.
Nunty, nincompoop, noddy.
Great, aren't they?
Noddy. Noddy's
Ninny
not a-
whoop. I like that
Numpty?
one.
Which one do you say, not?
Well, noddy.
No, there's only one that doesn't mean
ning-nang.
fool. What did you say?
Ning-nang.
Ning-nang. It was a useless racehorse.
Oh.
Gosh darn, ning-nang.
God damn ning-nang. In the old days, nice and natural meant stupid. Twice over. What should have won a Nobel Prize but didn't?
Oh, Rosalind Franklin.
Ah, well, people do say that
Yes.
because of DNA. But
Yes.
in fact, the absolute case of it is that they never awarded them posthumously. And she had already passed
already died.
away. But it's somebody unbelievably famous, scientific discovery.
Einstein.
General relativity?
It is absolutely Einstein. And it's the theory of...
Relativity.
The theory of relativity, right.
She said that.
Did you say it? I didn't hear, I apologise.
No, hey.
Deafness is a cruel mystery.
He did win the physics prize, but it was for his work on the photoelectric effect. He just didn't get the one.
You won
That's
the
also the-
prize for rubbing balloons on your head and sticking them to this.
So Einstein was nominated every year for a decade for his work on relativity.
Oh, wow. It's like the Leonardo DiCaprio of his day.
Yeah. And he really needed to win because he had promised the prize money as part of the divorce settlement to his wife.
That's a brilliant one to tell the lawyers.
Yeah.
I'm going to win the Nobel Prize, then I'll be all right then.
Yeah.
Absolutely confident.
But because there was no experimental confirmation of his theory, and also because there was an anti-Semitic faction, they just excluded him every single year. Then in 1919, a man called Arthur Eddington measured the deflection of light during a solar eclipse, and he proved what Einstein had been saying 4 years earlier. And even so, they cast Eddington's measurements into doubt, and then they gave him the physics prize for something completely different. They just didn't want to give it to him for theory of relativity. Anyway, what's great is that when news of Eddington's experiment broke, the New York Times sent their only reporter in London to meet him, and it was a man called Henry Crouch, and he was their golf correspondent. And he hadn't the faintest idea what Eddington was talking about. So he filed the most classic bit of, hope for the best, journalese. He wrote, "Lights all askew in the heavens. Men of science more or less agog over results of eclipse observations. Einstein theory triumphs. Stars not where they seemed or were calculated to be, but nobody need worry."
Very good.
That was very lively journalism for the period.
Great, wasn't it? From a golf correspondent. I think
It is very good journalism,
wonderful.
really.
The theory of relativity never got a Nobel Prize because it was only a theory. What did the royal families of Europe wear under their uniforms during the 19th century?
Potpourri.
They were naked.
No.
They weren't nude. Nothing.
They had rather fine underwear, whalebones.
Armour.
and-
What was the question? I've forgotten this one as well.
What did royal families of Europe wear under their uniforms during the 19th century?
Silk undies.
It's closer to the skin even than your underwear.
Lice. Just had loads of lice moving around.
But that's even a thought in your head is a worry. No. Decorative?
Tattoos.
Tattoos is exactly right. There was a craze for tattoos. According to the Hamsworth Monthly Pictorial Magazine, the Grand Duke Alexis of Russia was most elaborately tattooed, and there were lots of them. Prince and Princess Valdemar of Denmark, Queen Olga of Greece, King Oscar of Sweden, the Grand Duke Constantine, and in fact, also in the UK, King Edward VII and his son George V. Edward VII had 5 crosses, which he had done on a visit to Jerusalem when he was the Prince of Wales, when he was 20. And then George, his son, had the same design done by the same artist 20 years later. And my favourite story features a random Scandinavian, a randy Scandi of sorts. Napoleon's Marshal Jean-Baptiste Jules Bernadotte, he was a revolutionary firebrand, and he rose to become King of Sweden and Norway. And it turned against Napoleon, and he reigned for 26 years after Bonaparte's deposition. And while he was king, he never allowed doctors to see his naked torso. And there is a reason that became apparent after death, when he was found to have a tattoo from his revolutionary days that said, "Death to kings." And his heirs are the royal family of Sweden to this day.
Wow. I mean, a lot of people do regret tattoos, don't they? Like,
Have you got any tattoos?
I haven't, no. I've never really liked my body so much that I thought, oh, I'll decorate that. But I did see a guy in our local pub once that had a tattoo here that said, like, Sarah, and then it was crossed out, and then underneath it said Chloe.
Oh, I remember him. Biggest regrets.
Damn you, Chloe.
Chloe can have him. Some people are very passionate vegans, and they get a tattoo about their veganism, and tattoos are made from burned animal bones. So themselves not vegan.
So you can go in and say, I'd like a vegan tattoo, please.
Yeah, I'll go to, like, a special
No,
one.
please tell me there aren't vegan tattoo places. There are, really?
Yes.
That's very funny. That's 1,200 words in the Sunday Times next week, right there.
All life is material, Jeremy.
It is basically.
Anyway, lots of kings have had tattoos, but we can't show you any for regal reasons.
All right, that's enough.
Thank you. And now let's look at a noble gas. What gas is being used to light up this sign?
It's neon, Sandy.
Hang on a minute.
What were you going to say?
Oh, I was actually going to say oxygen.
No, that wouldn't be
You know, I actually thought I was going to get through my first ever QI without one of those things. I blew it.
Yeah, no.
That's it.
Sorry about that. No, anybody else?
I was going to say argon.
It is argon, you're absolutely right.
Yes!
So it depends on what colour you want, that's the thing. Not all neon signs contain neon. Neon, of course, one of the noble gases, so-called because they don't react with other elements, so they rather hold themselves aloof from other compounds.
They do not become truculent no matter how much they've had to
And several of the noble gases are used in lighting. So if you wanted to use neon, that would give a very distinctive red light. But there are other colours produced by other elements. You could just colour the glass of the tube. That would be the other way, I suppose. Yes. You could manage to do this. Now we descend from the airy mansions of the nobility to the bleak basement that is general ignorance. Fingers on buzzers, please. What was this person's first name?
Victoria.
It is Queen Victoria. But it isn't her first name. Oh. She was born on the 24th of May, 1819. And christened Brian. And
It's going to be something Gertrude or something German.
It's Alexandrina. She was named both after her godfather, Alexander I of Russia, and of her mother as well. When she was a child, she was known as Drina. You're writing that down as well?
Yes.
So he's got swear words and you're writing down bits of history, which I like very much. And when she became queen, so 1837, the official documents, she is originally Alexandrina Victoria, and then she decided that she wanted her first name removed and never to be used again. But I think it was part of her wanting to be her own person, because her very first royal act when she was 18 and she became queen was to have her bed moved out of her mother's bedroom and to have her own bedroom.
That is quite old to still be sleeping in your mum's room.
It's
I'm in charge now.
Yeah. It's weird when you get to know the nicknames that people have for each other. So in 2000, Nancy Reagan published a collection of letters between herself and Rani, who was her husband for 52 years. And the pet names are just excruciating. Little Mommy, You're in Love Gov, First Papa, Prexy, and my favourite, Mommy Poo Pants.
Oh.
That was one of the later ones.
Yeah.
I've got a little bit of sick in my mouth. A little bit.
The Victorians were nearly the Drenians. Under the Emperor Diocletian, the Roman Empire had 4 capitals. Please name 2 of them.
Constantinople?
No. Any more for any more? Not Constantinople.
Rome.
What had 4 capitals?
The Roman Empire.
London?
Not Rome. Not London.
Right.
Keep going. I don't think you're going to guess.
Venice. Tripoli. Florence.
Somewhere in Germania.
When he came to power, so 284 AD, the Roman Empire was threatened to collapse, and he did this brilliant thing. He decided to do a tetrarchy, and that is to be ruled by 4 emperors. And so he had 4 capitals. They were Nicomedia, which is in modern-day Turkey, Sirmium in modern-day Serbia, Mediolanum, which is modern-day Milan, and Augusta Trevororium, modern-day Trier. And actually, it worked so well that Diocletian was the very first emperor to be able to retire. And he retired to the Dalmatian coast, that's modern-day Croatia, and he grew vegetables.
There's a real moral about outsourcing.
Yes,
Like,
you
don't
see?
get too stressed.
Yeah.
Give other people your job and grow some
Franchise.
vegetables.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. Just delegate, man.
Yeah.
Chill out.
Now, which is the BBC's most popular television export?
Doctor Who.
I think I know this.
It's not. Doctor Who is the most popular drama.
So the BBC's most popular export?
Yes, the BBC's most popular television export.
Oh, television,
I
not
can
the
tell you
world's.
it more than any other series in the last 40 years.
It's not keeping up appearances, is it?
It is absolutely keeping up appearances.
Gasps of amazement. Hyacinth Bouquet.
Yes, that gentle comedy
Yes.
of social snobbery. How do you know that?
I just remember reading it.
Very popular in Scandinavia and Eastern Europe. In fact, Denmark has just placed another order for the show. And its subtitle, they also have dubbed.
Do they make it
versions.
because no one dies?
Yes. No one gets murdered in it.
So, groundbreaking.
It's very different to the Game of Thrones in that regard. It really is.
Attenborough's very popular with monkeys because of his wooden cock.
I do my best to steer this show.
Even then, you couldn't hear very well. Look here. You go, what?
I think the hair had been blown out of my ears.
It also looks like Billy Piper's looking at it as well.
Doctor, what is it? It's Attenborough's wooden cock.
All of which brings us to the scores. Well, a fantastic and outright winner in first place with 8 points. It's Jason!
You better check them.
In second place with -5, it's Jeremy! In third place, -21, Sarah! And with a commendable -64, Alan! For me to thank Sarah, Jason, Jeremy and Alan. And finally, in case you're feeling envious of the nobility, spare a thought for Lord Ivy. The head of the Guinness family in the 1980s was injured in a traffic accident in Dublin and taken to hospital. Under the Irish system, people earning more than £11,000 a year had to pay for their treatment. So when he arrived, they asked him, "Do you earn £11,000? To which he replied, "Some days I do, some days I don't." Do the bit.